All right, so today we're doing a deep dive that's all about you and how you make decisions. We're skipping the usual self-help stuff
Yeah.
and going right to the playbook of the ultra-successful,
Mm-hmm.
all based on what you sent us.
Mm.
Things like Jeff Bezos's regret minimization framework, Susie Welch's 10-10-10 rule, and even something called pre-mortem analysis.
Wow.
I know, right? Super interesting stuff.
Yeah.
Luckily, we have our expert here to unpack it all for us.
Yeah, it really is fascinating stuff. It's not really about specific choices so much as a systematic approach. By the end of this, you'll have some great new tools to make decisions. Decisions that move you towards your goals, no matter what those goals are.
I love that. So the first thing is this. The research dives right into the idea that the ultra-successful don't just get lucky. They have a system. They even use this snowball analogy. Each decision builds on the last one, creating momentum towards or away from your goals.
Right. And that's why consistent focus is so important. Think about a pilot navigating a long flight. Even small adjustments to the course at the start can make a huge difference to where they end up.
Oh, yeah.
It's the same with decisions, even the small ones.
That's a good point. It's so easy to think, oh, this one little choice doesn't matter. But they all add up, don't they? Now, here's where it gets really interesting. The research says the goal is not to be right every time. Have you ever felt that pressure? Like you have to make the perfect decision.
Yeah, all the time.
I know. It's paralyzing.
Totally. But the ultra-successful, they have a different mindset. It's less about getting rid of risk entirely and more about minimizing regret. It's about maximizing options and playing the long game. They look for opportunities with asymmetric upside.
Okay, hold on. Let's unpack that. Asymmetric upside, what does that even mean?
It means that the potential gains from a decision are way bigger than the potential losses. Like you're looking for situations where the best case scenario is incredibly rewarding, even if it's not that likely to happen.
So it's kind of like when well, I won't bore you with the details, but let's just say I took a chance on something that could have paid off big. Everyone thought I was crazy, but it actually worked out even better than I imagined.
That's a perfect example. And it highlights that key difference in mindset. The ultra-successful are comfortable with risks if they make sense. They get that you might fail. But they focus on the potential good stuff and see setbacks as learning experiences.
And to actually analyze those risks and opportunities,
Yeah.
they use specific frameworks, right? The research outlines a bunch of them. Let's look at a few. Let's start with Jeff Bezos and his regret minimization framework.
Yeah, that's a big one. It's about imagining yourself in the future. Bezos asks himself, in however many years will I regret not doing this? It shifts the focus from short-term risks to potential long-term regrets.
You know, it's about making choices that match your long-term goals and what you want to do, even if it means leaving your comfort zone. Remember when Bezos left his safe job at a hedge fund to start Amazon? People must have thought he was insane. But for him, avoiding future regret was more important than staying in a comfortable job.
Yeah, and well, that decision worked out pretty well for him. It shows how this way of thinking can lead to bold choices that make a difference. So think about your own life. Is there a decision you're facing right now where this framework could help? Maybe something you're not sure about, or a chance you're scared to take?
That's such a powerful question to ask yourself. It can be a real game changer. Let's move on to another framework, one that's great for making everyday decisions. Susie Welch's 1-10-10 rule.
Right. This is a great tool for looking at decisions with both short-term and long-term consequences. The questions are, how will you feel about this in 10 minutes? How about in 10 months? And in 10 years?
So it's making you think past the initial excitement or fear and really see the bigger picture.
Yeah, exactly. Like the source material talks about someone getting offered a new job, but the commute is a lot longer. In 10 minutes, they might be super excited about the bigger salary. But 10 months later, that long commute might get really old. And 10 years later, it could have a big impact on their work-life balance. Or even their health.
It's like a reality check, right? It's so easy to make a decision we'll regret later if we just go with what feels good now. Think about a tough decision you made recently. Would this rule have helped you? Would it have made things clearer?
It can really give you more perspective. And speaking of perspective, let's look at something a little less normal. It's called pre-mortem analysis.
Ooh, that sounds intense. Tell me more.
Okay, so it's like time traveling to the future, but not in a fun way. You pretend your decision was a complete failure, and you're trying to figure out why. By working backward from that pretend failure, you can see risks you might have missed.
That's actually really smart. You're finding problems before they happen, so you can avoid them.
Yeah, exactly. It's like stress testing your decisions before you make them.
I've actually used this myself. It's surprisingly helpful. There was this project I was working on that just stalled. I couldn't figure out why, so I did this pre-mortem thing. And it helped me see some really important things I'd missed early on.
It can really show you your blind spots. Think about a project or decision in your own life where a pre-mortem could help. What problems might be hiding just below the surface?
It turns those what-if worries into real information you can use. Let's change gears for a minute and talk about something people don't always think about, opportunity cost.
Right, this highlights something important. Every decision has a hidden cost. When you choose one thing, you can't choose others. Ultra-successful people are really aware of this. They factor it into their decisions.
It's like that example of a fancy vacation. Sure, it sounds amazing now, but what else could you do with that money? Invest it. Start a business. The decision isn't just about the vacation, it's about comparing it to everything else you could do with those resources.
That's a great example. The source material also talks about the opportunity cost of our time, too. Every hour we spend on one thing, it's an hour we can't spend on something else.
So we have to be careful how we spend our time and energy. We have to make sure our choices match our priorities. Think about something you bought recently, or even just something you committed your time to. What was the opportunity cost?
Asking that question can make you see things in a new way. Now let's look at a framework that can make you a better decision maker. Decision journaling.
I've heard people talking about this a lot lately. It's like keeping a diary, right? But for your decisions.
It's kind of like a diary, but it's more than that. It's about writing down your thinking process, what you considered, why you made the decision, even how you were feeling at the time. Then you go back and look at what happened because of your decision.
So it's like having a record of your choices, so you can learn from them, both the good ones and the bad ones.
Yeah. Say you're thinking about expanding your business. You want to move into a new market. By keeping a journal, you create a record of your whole process, your research, the risks you thought about, and why you decided what you decided. If it works, great. You can look back and see why you were successful. If it doesn't work, you can figure out what went wrong and avoid making those mistakes again.
It's like learning from every single decision you make. Imagine how decision journaling could have changed a past decision, or helped you make a better one in the future.
It can really help you understand yourself better and grow. But remember, these frameworks are just tools. To get really good at making decisions, you need the right mindset, too. Ultra-successful people have a way of thinking that makes them different.
So it's not just about having the tools, it's about knowing how to use them. Tell me more about this ultra-successful mindset. What changes do they make in the way they think?
It's like having the blueprint, but needing the workers. That mindset makes those tools work. So what does this ultra-successful thinking look like?
Okay, yeah, I like that.
Well, the research says there are 5 key mindset shifts. First is intellectual honesty. It sounds easy, but it's hard. It's about really being honest with yourself, seeing your own biases and limits.
No sugarcoating, right? Just seeing things as they are, even if it's not what you want.
Right. And this leads into the second one, first principles thinking. It's about breaking down problems into their most basic parts. Instead of just going with what everyone says, you question things. You figure things out from the ground up.
So it's like constantly asking why, right? Not just accepting the way things are.
You got it. Next is the growth mindset. You've probably heard of this one. But it's not just being positive. It's about seeing challenges as chances to learn and get better.
It's like you get knocked down and you think, okay, what did I learn? How can I use this?
Exactly. You experiment, you're willing to fail, and you use those failures to improve. Now, this next one might surprise you. Cultivating your intuition.
Wait, intuition? I thought all this was about data and stuff.
Yeah.
How does gut feeling fit in?
That's a great question. Data and frameworks are really important. But ultra-successful people, they don't ignore their gut. Sometimes your gut feeling comes from years of experience. You're picking up on patterns without even realizing it.
It's like that feeling you get when something feels off, even if you can't say exactly why. But you're not saying we should just blindly trust those feelings.
No, not at all. You have to check your intuition, look at the facts, find more information, talk to people you trust.
So you listen to your gut, but you use your head too. I like that. Okay, so what's the 5th mindset shift?
It's called probabilistic thinking. And it's about accepting that you can't know everything, for sure. Instead of trying to predict the future perfectly, you think about the odds. What are the chances of different things happening?
So it's like instead of saying, will this definitely work, you say, What are the chances this will work? And what happens if it does, or if it doesn't?
Exactly. We live in a world where we can't know everything for sure. Instead of looking for guarantees, we learn to handle that uncertainty.
That's a really good way to think about it. Okay, so we've got these frameworks and mindsets. But let's be honest, making decisions can still be tough. We all have those moments of doubt, those times when we feel stuck.
Of course. And the research talks about that too. It points out 4 common challenges. Even really successful people face these. First, there's analysis paralysis.
Ugh, I know that one.
Yeah.
It's when you have too many options, you overthink everything. And you just freeze up. You can't decide anything.
It happens to a lot of people. The way to beat it: take action, set deadlines, focus on speed, not perfection. Sometimes good enough is better than waiting for the perfect decision.
It's about getting out of your head and doing something, even if it feels scary.
Exactly. The second challenge is emotional decision-making. This is when your feelings take over. Whether it's fear or excitement or just stress, they hijack your logic.
Yeah, I've been there. Making a choice based on how I feel in the moment, instead of what really makes sense for the long term.
The key here is learning to manage your emotions. Take a step back, breathe, and create some space between how you feel and what you decide.
So you acknowledge those feelings, but you don't let them control your choices. What else gets people stuck?
Confirmation bias. This is when you only look for information that agrees with what you already believe. You ignore stuff that challenges your views.
It's like putting on blinders. You only see what you want to see. It's so easy to do that when you're passionate about something.
The solution is to look for opinions that are different from yours. Question your own assumptions. Be the devil's advocate for your own ideas.
Be okay with being wrong sometimes. Be willing to change your mind.
Exactly. And finally, there's apophenia and pareidolia. Those are just fancy words for seeing patterns that aren't really there.
Oh yeah, this is a good one. It's like when you see faces in the clouds. Or you think winning lottery numbers are connected to your birthday. It's natural to look for patterns. But we can go too far.
And that can lead to bad decisions. Be strict with your information, check it against other data, look at your sources carefully. Don't jump to conclusions based on weak evidence.
Like a detective, right. Looking for real clues, not just what you hope is true.
Exactly. When you make decisions, be skeptical and think critically. That helps you avoid mistakes.
Wow, we've covered a lot. Frameworks, mindsets, even things to watch out for. It's a lot to think about. But I feel like I can make better decisions now.
I'm glad to hear that. And remember, getting good at decision-making takes time. You keep learning and getting better.
So it's not about finding the one right answer. It's about finding a process that works for you and changing it as you go.
Right, and that's what makes it so cool. You're not just letting things happen to you. You're shaping your life with your choices.
You're in control of your own destiny. But how do we take all this and actually use it? How do we go from these ideas to doing something?
The cool thing is you don't have to be rich or a CEO to use these techniques. Anyone can learn to make decisions on purpose. It's about making choices that fit your goals and what you believe in. It doesn't matter how big or small those are.
So we're not just trying to make better decisions, right? We're changing our whole approach.
Yeah.
It's like going from an old clunker to a race car.
I like that. And just like learning to drive that race car, it takes practice. But like the research says, you already have the power to make big decisions.
I love that. So where do we begin? What's one thing someone listening could do right now?
Remember that snowball thing we talked about?
Yeah.
It starts with just one little decision, then another, then other. Pick one of the frameworks we talked about today, one that made sense to you, and try it out on a decision you need to make.
Okay, so like if someone's stuck in analysis paralysis, they could set a deadline. Or if they get caught up in their emotions, they could try that emotional regulation thing.
Exactly. Start small, be consistent, and over time you'll see a huge difference.
It's really cool to think that each choice we make, it's like building the future we want.
You're not just letting fate decide. You're the architect of your own destiny.
That's a powerful thought. Well, thank you so much for walking us through all this deep dive into how the ultra-successful make decisions. It's been amazing.
Happy to do it. Remember, you have the power to make your own future.
Absolutely. And to our listener, we hope this has given you some great tools and ideas. Now go out and make those awesome decisions. Until next time, keep diving deep.